skill development.
The Bridlewood Homework Club is unique in that we're located in an elementary school, so it gives us access to, well, a lot of children sort of at one time. They're not having to travel to come here, although children from any schools in the neighborhood are welcome. It's unique in that we have a really close relationship with the school, that if a teacher wants to recommend a child to come to Homework Club, then the teacher can come down, see what's being offered, maybe give some extra information to the Homework Club tutors so that they can support the child individually.
There's financial differences as well. You know, we have the single working parent versus the two-parent government working kind of situation. So being aware of the financial differences is a big one. The YMCA is a charitable organization, so there is definitely limited funding or limited funds. So it's getting creative. That would be the big one.
Well, I think the challenges that this rural program faces is just being rural. Is it small? I think this year kids, as they grow up, they like to move on. You know, it kind of sucks to see them go, but it's also nice to see them leave because they're moving on to bigger, better things. But that's also the thing, is that we can become a small program. Sometimes we're just booming. I think the start of the year we had a lot of kids, and then as some kids grew up and their parents said, okay, well you're mature enough and you're old enough to stay at home, our registration numbers were going down. And they're getting smaller, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but that's a challenge to face, that if our registration numbers are too small, we could kind of face some troubles there, just because we like to have big registration numbers. And then for teens too, this is a teen kind of hub for drop-in. There's not a lot of teenagers in Osgoode, and I don't think, probably 90% of them don't even come to OEA, just because nobody's going to drive super far for OEA. I don't find anyone does. I find it's just the teens that are in and about and are looking for something to do on a Wednesday or Friday night that could stop by. So probably just being rural could be a challenge, I think is a challenge.
Aside from the parents or guardians, as a frontline staff of a critical hours program, you are the one who experiences on a regular basis the immediate challenges your participants face. Whether they are having difficulty with reading or making friends, it is up to you to employ the best method of managing the situation and building up that young person.
I was drawing a picture and I did a mistake in it, but it was with paint. So the staff came and helped me, and I was really frustrated because it was like the most beautiful thing I ever did. She helped me by like deciding what a different picture you could do on it, like that looks the same, that could blend in with it, and I picked another picture.
We just have to find that, you know, which one of these sort of mediums will lend itself for any particular child to help support that. So that's exactly a good example of how we can foster the adaptive process, facilitate it, help a child get unstuck without having to do counseling or therapy with that child. That's not our role, and besides, we're now realizing that's not all that helpful to tackle that on directly either, because it evokes a lot of defendedness in their little brains. They can't process, so the brain shuts it down. So that's even better to do it indirectly. Music, arts, expressive writing, books, stories, with the wee little ones. And I see Michelle at the back there with the Head Start programs. You know, we had talked about how to bring in children's literature in the daycare settings that would help children start being more attuned with feelings without it being their own. You know, we're not talking about your sadness about your mommy and daddy splitting up, but we're going to be talking about this story that talks about sadness and disappointment when we lose something, right? So we can definitely, as educators, as mentors, if we're that safe place, that home base, we can foster that, facilitate that in so many different ways. And most of the time, and that's the good news, we do that. We just don't know that that's what we're doing, right? But now that we know this, we go, oh my gosh, the possibilities are infinite.
A lot of our life skills-based programming happens in our girls and guys groups. So for those groups, our life skills focus more on like coping with mental health, learning about like self-care and different kinds of life skills that they'll need later on and now as they're in high school. But then the life skills component in our homework club focuses more on like an educational aspect. So they learn how to navigate through like university and college websites, they learn how to budget, they learn how to start preparing for their futures now.
By providing the tools for children and youth to develop academic skills and social and emotional skills like intrinsic concentration and motivation, you are ensuring that they are equipped with skills that are essential for lifelong success. Programs that have the most impact on academic outcomes and social emotional competencies are those which are diverse and offer opportunity for choice, are age and level appropriate, and include safe activities.
Well, the little ones, 4 and 5-year-olds don't typically like group games very much. They're used to kind of playing one-on-one or, you know, maybe just with a parent and on their own. And so when they come into a group setting, it's like, well, what? This isn't, you know, it's not one-on-one attention, and that can be hard for them to adjust to. But we kind of gently nudge them to play, and when they see other kids are having fun, they want to eventually join and have fun too. But these little ones, like, they're not great at catching a ball or kicking or whatever, so we would, you know, come up with some activities that involves throwing a ball or balancing a beanbag on their head or tossing a beanbag into a bucket or something like that to help with that initial skill development. With older children, typically grade 5, grade 6, they're looking for more sports. You know, they're looking to play basketball, they want to play hockey, they want to play soccer. So that's how we would adjust the program to suit their needs and their skill level too.
It's easy to recognize some of the strengths that we appreciate and value in the people that we support. What I want to look at are what are some of the hidden strengths or the strengths that might be in the wrong context. In other talks I've done, I share a picture that my son drew on his bed sheet. As an example of the right strength is creativity, but it's not in the right place, right? So the big issue for us isn't don't draw on your bed sheets, and it's wrong that you're drawing pictures like that. It's just like, how do we move this to the right place and you can help us wash your sheets, right? So it's kind of the accountability with redirecting that existing strength.
Like at school, it's because like we're a lot of students, and like the teacher can't help all of us at once. So in case we have a problem in math or anything, we would write it down. And then when we come here, we have like we have staffs that are just here from university. Some of them are from high school, and like some of them speak English and French. So then when we come here, like we have like either fresh minds, and like we also have like them, and they've already did those problems, and like it's faster for me to like understand from them than it is like in a classroom full of like 28 students yelling at once. So like it helps me, like, because when I come here to do my homework and everything, I feel like I can concentrate because like I don't have people yelling, and like I can ask any question and I won't feel judged, because it always happens in class, oh, that question's so stupid. But like here, like you ask a question and then they would give you an exact answer, you know.
Our program is unique because it offers a place for children to do their homework without essentially the pressures of academia. So they can come have fun, but they can still get stuff done. And it provides them with a useful tool to get help with certain subjects that they find they're having difficulty in.
As the frontline staff of a critical hours program, you can offer children and youth more flexibility than school classrooms in terms of encouraging the development of their sense of autonomy, psychosocial adjustment, and empathy towards others. After-school programs offer a variety of activity options which are age and developmentally appropriate.
For some of them, we have them sitting with other children in their grade, so they're focusing all on the same thing, you know what I mean? So they're working together, they're helping each other out, they're checking over each other's homework, etc. And we're just always, we go around, we sign agendas, we make sure that if there's homework in the agenda that the child has, that we're making sure that that homework is there and that they're working on that.
At snack time, we only allow so much snack. It's not, you know, a free-for-all. So over the years, we've had some kids who will come up and say, you know, I'm really hungry. Can I have a second or third snack? And your general first response is, no, you've already had the allotment. But after time, when you realize that they're consistently asking, and you can even say, well, you know, what did you have in your lunch today? And some of them will say, I had, you know, bread and butter. and maybe an apple or something. So for them to be at school all day and then to come to homework club, that's not enough to sustain them nutritionally. So then we will provide them with extra things. So it's really trying to make those connections so that you can also recognize the nuances, those little things that might change and can draw your attention to something that's going on.
We've had reading buddies, for example, in the past, where the older ones read with the younger ones. We've also had them, maybe go and play with them, if you will, like building sandcastles together, or playing on the swings where the little ones need a push. The little ones are learning from the older ones, and the older ones are kind of reinforcing their knowledge by explaining it to someone younger.
Skills that are invaluable to academic success are persistence, focus, sustained attention, and engagement, and these are often developed through programs like homework clubs. The acquisition of good work habits and invaluable scholastic skills, combined with the acquisition of social competencies and a reduction in negative or antisocial behavior, have the most significant positive impact on the academic outcomes of at-risk children and youth. However, you may be a frontline staff of a critical hours program that does not include academic aspects, but your program should still aim to support your participants' capacity to improve in school.
Interest in homework and activities, sometimes we can turn it into a club where some of them are in the same classroom at school, or they're in the same grade. So it's kind of like everybody's doing French, or everybody's doing math or whatever, and we can bring in manipulatives, which we might use Lego for that purpose, or something like that. And as capitalizing on their interest, you can sort of adapt that to help motivate with the homework as well.
Well, how I would say I try and keep them engaged and interested is I sit down with them and I try and have a little fun with it. Not always the easiest to keep kids engaged with math, but I think having a youth worker sitting there with them working through the problems is a lot more effective and makes them, even if it doesn't make them enjoy it, I think it makes them a little more motivated to do it, having someone there working through it with them. I work with a young kid regularly when I'm here with his dictate words, and to kind of make it fun and to make it interesting, I usually make up silly little sentences to go with each of the words. So he's got a couple words in English, couple words in French, and I make up sentences that he can use them in, so he gets the context of the word and hopefully he's learning something from it. But if not, he's getting a little bit of a laugh and is enjoying writing down the word, and almost a distraction from actually the thought of having to do homework.
Some of the key common roadblocks to engaging the young people who are harder to reach are, and we've already touched on a lot of this, power dynamics, right? We talked about the triangle. We talked about feelings of oppression, feelings of being at the short end of the stick in a power dynamic relationship. Another common roadblock are feelings of non-belonging. I heard the speaker that came before us just before lunch talking about the importance of team spirit and the importance of belonging. You could have an activity meant to inspire team spirit, but that young person that's isolated, either because they isolate themselves or they feel isolated by others, won't necessarily engage either, right, in those group activities that you set up for team spirit. So we'll have a look at some ways of dealing with that. And then there are also so many, unfortunately, kids, based on our national statistics, who are dealing with neglect, abuse, trauma, either in the home, in the family, in the extended family, in their neighborhood, in their community, right? So we always have to approach those young people with that eye on, am I creating that safe emotional and physical environment for them?
These activities provide enrichment for participants in areas including arts and culture, sciences, physical fitness, and many others. Because there is no singular program focus, such as for a karate lesson, a dance class, a classroom, students have the opportunity to develop several skills simultaneously.
When the child is able to register emotionally sadness and disappointment, when he or she is up against something they cannot change, that kickstarts the adaptive process. Now again, this is attachment related. If the child is in an environment where it's not safe to feel sad and disappointed, the brain will sacrifice emotional development for survival purposes. That brain is going to tell the child, you're not going to feel sad or disappointed, because if you do, you risk not surviving this, right? And so we have many children whose adaptive functioning is compromised from an early age on. And then when they get to more structured programs, they really struggle at accepting no's, limits, why we need to do things a certain way, class rules, social convention, how to behave in a social situation, and so on.
There are times during a homework club session where you might notice a participant or volunteer looking a bit stressed or frustrated, and it is quite clear that they might need some reassurance or a break from homework. Studies show that spending long periods of time studying or doing homework may actually decrease the amount of information and quality of information the brain absorbs.
You know, we're all kind of familiar, and the kids that stand out who are high energy, who are often the ones who command and demand our attention for whatever reason, right? Those kids are often the ones that are fairly visible in the room and that do kind of get a lot of our time and attention. And then there are young people who maybe really just don't believe in themselves. They don't have that self-confidence, right? They're the more shy, the more timid, the more reserved young person. And they may not have that belief in themselves yet that they can grow. I heard Ben say, I'm bad at math, right? I would encourage Ben to use a growth mindset and think, you're bad at math, you can't do math yet. But just because you're pushing 40 doesn't mean you can't still learn math. Sorry, a little jab there. I'm actually older than he is, so I shouldn't say that. Right, so to embrace, I can't do it yet. If you have those young people in your groups who are constantly negative self-talking, I can't do it, I don't like it, I'm not good at this, I won't do it. That word yet can be really powerful. You can add that at the end of any sentence for that negative self-talk, and it can really reframe it really quickly for them.
In terms of like giving them future skill sets, like I said, the active participation, not being afraid to ask questions. As I remember, especially at that age, when I had homework, like if I didn't know how to do it, I'd just like, okay, I'm not doing it. Whereas like coming to the homework club, we encourage questions, right? If you don't know something, feel free to ask anyone. It doesn't matter if they're younger than you, older than you, if they're a volunteer or someone like me who gets paid to be here. It doesn't matter, anyone's willing to help you out. And I think that's probably the most valuable skill, not being afraid to make mistakes and not being afraid to ask any questions.
We need to start teaching the difference between fun, happiness, and joy. And it's okay, well, what's the difference in that? That to me, they're synonyms. And she said, well, joy is that everlasting feeling that no one can take away from you, because joy is something that you've accomplished for yourself. The ability to read gives you joy. It gives you that freedom. When happiness is temporary, right? Playing a little bit of fun, playing a couple video games, that's fun, that just gets you going. But joy is being able to search all the video games reviews to see which one's the best so that you could go and choose for yourself. That's joy. It's the ability to do for yourself, and that happiness, that confidence that no one can take away from you. And so somehow we can kind of teach our children that. We know that, obviously through psychology studies, later gratification is never as easy as gratification right away. But if we can show how joy and long-term gratification takes, there's so many wonders we can do at our homework clubs and all that.